Look, for most people, HCG itself is why you're not dialed in on TRT. And what if I told you you could actually use HCG as the dial-in lever on TRT, and you got to have your cake and eat it too by dosing more testosterone? Listen, if you're on TRT and your libido is inconsistent and your erections aren't fully there, or you feel like you're almost dialed in but not quite, HCG might be the variable that is off. And most guys, if they're not situating their protocol to afford a lot of HCG, are actually just using too much HCG, which is completely killing their ability to dial in on TRT. Look, if you're on TRT and anabolism's pretty okay, energy's pretty good, but erections and libido are inconsistent and you're unsure why, but you have HCG in your protocol, this video is literally for you. And I'm going to show you exactly what to do with HCG to allow both the use of higher testosterone and to fix libido and erection problems and dial in permanently on testosterone replacement therapy. All right, so here's the bottom line. HCG, or human chorionic gonadotropin, is not just a side component of a TRT protocol. It is one of the most powerful levers for controlling estrogen and therefore sexual function on TRT. So let's look at what HCG does. HCG, as we know, stimulates the testicles to produce testosterone and estradiol. So when you add HCG or have HCG in a TRT protocol, you're now producing estrogen from a secondary source in addition to the testosterone producing estrogen. And this is where a lot of guys go wrong because they use way too much HCG. Let's look at something. So this is a Reddit thread titled, "What is your HCG dose?" Just to get an idea, what are people dosing on TRT with HCG? What is the advice that they are getting from their doctor, the clinics, or the web that might be steering them in the wrong direction on TRT? Here's one that highlights the problem, which I'm going to get to for some people: 250 IU every other day. That's equivalent to 125 IU, or no, yeah, a day, but you're bolusing it at 250 every other day. You're having an infusion, a large infusion of HCG at once, which is going to increase estrogen pretty markedly. Now, here's two really important comments, and then we're going to get to the strategy of using HCG. I really want you to stick around for that. That's coming next. Zero HCG. It didn't work for me. Estrogen sides through the roof. Good luck. He even follows it up with a good luck. And then, though, 150 IU 2 times a week. Didn't take much for me. On TRT, most of us, for the purposes of anabolism and masculinity and energy, want to be taking more testosterone. I can tell you that running a cycle of 500 milligrams of testosterone a week, I felt incredible, literally incredible. So the question I'm going to pose to you is, could you increase your testosterone dose, meaning take more testosterone, and that dials you in better? The answer to that question in the context of HCG is yes. Taking more testosterone can absolutely positively dial you in if you lower your HCG dose. So let's talk brass tacks. Most people are on 125, 150 IU of HCG a day if they're doing daily pinning. Some people I've seen run 200 IU or 300 IU per day if they're more conscious of fertility. Others are on 250 IU every other day or 500 IU either twice a week or 3 times a week. These are the standard doses. However, I've seen some people on, let's call it 150 IU of HCG per day, increase their estrogen from that HCG by more than 20 picograms per milliliter. I've also seen people on moderately low doses of HCG, called 150 IU every day, that it only increases estradiol like 10 picograms per milliliter. Now, I want to make one clear statement which should wrap all of this up clearly for everybody. If you take higher end doses of HCG, let's call that above 100 IU per day, if you are not taking an AI or anything else like DHT derivatives to control estrogen, you are going to require less testosterone to dial in. You can't be taking 150, 160, 170, 200 of testosterone with above 100 IU of HCG in a lot of cases, because what is that HCG going to do in addition to your already aromatizable androgen, your testosterone? It's going to make you aromatize more. And this is the problem that people have. Look, if you need to dial in permanently on TRT, get Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT, the Sexual Function Playbook, which covers every ester with strategic protocols to show you how to dial in libido, erections, sensation, and climax on every ester of testosterone. It is down in the description of this video. It's an instant download and it can be yours instantly. If you're frustrated with TRT and need to dial in specifically libido and erections, energy and anabolism, and fix sexual dysfunction, hire me. I am a coach that has been working for 7 years to fix complex sexual dysfunction on TRT, and you can book me in under a minute at livecortex.com or down in the description of this video. Using testosterone cream is the most advanced thing you can do on TRT, and I created a video course showing you specifically how to dial in libido and erections on test cream, and you can get that also down in the description of this video. Lastly, if you need to dial in on Propionate, yeah, it's hard, but I've built a video course on that. The only instructional video course that shows you how to dial in test Propionate for sexual function, also down in the description. In other words, for their test dose, they're taking too much HCG. So here is the bulletproof strategy to fix your TRT protocol once and for all, dial in permanently, and take more testosterone while doing it. The answer to this is to reduce your HCG dose to the absolute minimum effective dose for you. And that's going to be different between people, but I would start with a dose range of 50 to 90 IU of HCG per day. Here's the bottom line with that. If you're at 70, somewhere in the middle, IU of HCG every day, you maintain testicular function, right? Say that works for you and it's enough gonadotropin stimulation of the luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptors, which exist in the testicles, which HCG acts like LH and FSH to kind of mimic and to agonize those receptors. So say you have perfect testicular function with 70 IU of HCG per day. Guess what kind of doses you're going to be able to tolerate in testosterone cypionate or testosterone enanthate? Between 140 and 200 milligrams of either one of those esters. And usually people are better right in the middle, 150. You can now have 70 IU of HCG, right? Enough to keep the testicles functional, support libido, sensation, the neurosteroidal action of the testes in response to HCG. But you can then tolerate 150 milligrams of testosterone a week, whether you split that twice a week or you do every other day injections or you do daily injections to keep everything really, really stable. Then guess what you get? Estrogen in range, okay? If you're not an over-aromatizer, 150 milligrams testosterone a week, especially if you're doing everyday injections, and 70 IU of HCG every day, you're not going to aromatize past 30 or 35. You're going to be right in the sex-specific zone with estradiol. Then you're more anabolic, you're stronger at the gym, you recover faster, you feel better, your energy is maxed, you have more DHT to support erectile quality, and more testosterone to support all the positive effects that test gives us men. And you're only using the base level of HCG to keep things as functional as possible, while not going over and mucking up your protocol. If your HCG dose was 125 IU or 150 or 175 IU per day, you're not going to be able to tolerate, usually, 150 milligrams plus of TRT. You're just going to make too much estrogen. You're going to have to manage it with an AI. This same principle applies to every other ester. Let's take test prop. A lot of folks can't go above 25 to 30 milligrams a day with test prop when they're running 200 IU or even 150 IU of HCG per day because it takes the estrogen too high. And they feel good. They have anabolism and all that good stuff, but erections are suffering and libido is suffering. You go down in that dose range, let's just say you respond to 60 IU of HCG every day. Guess what's going to happen to that prop dose? Now, instead of 25, 27, which is all you could tolerate above which estrogen went too high, you can now dose 40 milligrams of test prop every day. Then you're super anabolic, you feel strong as hell. Erections are better because you've got more DHT. You're stoic, you're masculine, you're cool, you're calm, you're centered, and you're not excessively estrogenic because you're only taking the minimum effective dose, the absolute minimum effective quantity of HCG. Same thing applies with cream. Guys will not dial in on test cream either on 3 clicks or 4 clicks of the 200 milligram concentration cream or 5 to 8 clicks of the 100 milligram concentration cream because their HCG dose is too high. So if they take their HCG dose down to between 50 and 90 IU and find the sweet spot where you've got that minimum effective testicular function, then they can run 4 clicks a day of the 200 milligram stuff. The best way to break that down, by the way, or break that up, is 3 clicks in the morning and then 1 click around 4 p.m. That is absolutely positively the best way to use that stuff. If you're running 5 clicks or 6 clicks of the 100 milligram per milliliter scrotal cream in the morning, but you're at 250 IU of HCG every other day and estrogen's over range and you're not dialed in, you're trying to figure out what's going on, guess what you can? You could reduce that HCG dose to between 50 and 90 IU per day and increase the testosterone dose. Call it 6 clicks on the scrotum in the morning and then 2 additional clicks on the shoulder at 4 p.m. Then you're super anabolic, you're strong, you feel great, you've got loads of testosterone, but estrogen is not over range. So then with all that added DHT, while still having functional testicles, because, you know, again, minimum effective dose of HCG, some people are going to find the lower doses, testicles will still be functional. Then you've got killer erections, just steel rods, insane libido, and you feel amazing. All you did was use the HCG as a lever to dial in. So if I haven't been clear about the strategy is to start at the absolute lowest amount of HCG within that range, which would be 50 to 60 IU per day. And then move your test dose up. Pick a point between, if you're on Propionate, 120 to 180 milligrams a week, and just run that for 6 weeks and test it. You're going to find erections are going to be the first thing that comes back on something like this. HCG is the biggest inhibitor of erections on TRT known to man because it's pushing estrogen above range. Then if you do that for 6 weeks and you figure, okay, erections are totally back, but I'm missing libido, all you have to do is increase the estrogen a little bit. So then from 50 IU of HCG, you increase in 5 milligram increments stepwise upward until you reach both where you got good erection still, but now your libido and your sensation is intact. The bottom line is there are many things that can mess with a TRT protocol and prevent you from dialing in. And HCG is one of the core suspects in this dynamic. I am not saying I don't like HCG. I am not saying that I am anti-HCG. I have dosed HCG and will continue to dose HCG for years in the past and forever in the time continuum. My body loves it. But some people do not too well or tolerate even moderate doses of the stuff. So you've got to find your minimum effective dose. Then you can take more tests, dial in the erections, and use HCG in a stepwise fashion to dial in your protocol. If you do it that way and you start at the lowest possible dose of HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin is your lever to dial in. You got your test dose, call it 150, 160, right? Or 30 milligrams, 40 milligrams prop, or 3 clicks of the 200 milligram cream in the morning and 1 click on the shoulders at 4 p.m. You use the HCG to dial in thereafter, and you ride off into the sunset. All right, listen, as I alluded to, there are a couple core products that if you're looking to dial in on TRT and want to finally be finished with it and get great erections, great libido, great masculinity, energy, and anabolism, you've got to get these products. Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT, the Sexual Function Playbook, is the only rulebook, official TRT guide that you will ever need to dial in any ester, Propionate, enanthate, cream, prop, DHT, Proviron, Masteron, Primo, everything is in this downloadable digital guide. Get it right now, livecortex.com, or down in the description of this video. Dialing in on testosterone cream can be tricky. That's why I built a video course that breaks down every strategy on dialing in both the 200 milligram cream and the 100 milligram cream specifically for libido and erections. Go get Mastering Testosterone Cream for Libido and Erections, livecortex.com, or down in the description of this video. Last thing, listen, if you don't want to go at this alone, this is what I do for a living. I am the guy that gets the call when people are frustrated, cannot fix sexual dysfunction, have libido erection issues on TRT, and just want to dial in permanently. We have a single session call with me and 3 follow-up action routes, a 3-month TRT sexual function restoration intensive, a 6-month advanced TRT sexual function restoration coaching package, and a PFS recovery program. You can book me for any of those in under a minute, livecortex.com, or the fact-finding call as soon as the next day, and then we begin. All right, my brothers in test. It has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Please like the video. It makes a huge difference. It would mean the world to me if you would just hit the like button. Sub to the channel because, listen, I am breaking stuff down that nobody else is talking about that you need to hear. All I care about is dialing people in on TRT. I would love to have you on board as a subscriber. Sub to the channel. Get answers to TRT questions. Now, there's all kinds of ancillaries you can use on TRT, and one of them is Cialis. And I just did an epic breakdown of the use of Cialis for rigid erections on TRT that I want you to watch. You can click that video right here, go over and watch the video, and I think you're going to love it. Kick ass, rock on, and I'll talk to you soon.